Tonight on Meet Your Double Feature, Dorothy fights to protect her magical friends from an evil gnome king in Return to Oz. Then, T.E. Lawrence fights to protect his Arabian allies from European control in A Dangerous Man, Lawrence After Arabia. It's a new season of Forgotten Movie Sequels, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Meet Your Double Feature, a double-blind movie review podcast. My name is Thomas, joined as always by my brother Frank. Frank, how are you?
I'm excited. I'm excited for a new season. My posture's so good right now. I'm sitting.
Your posture's up.
All the way up in my chair. That's how excited I am for this.
All the way up. He's got his feet up on the seat. He's perched.
Yeah, I'm like El from Death Note. That's how I'm sitting right now.
Like El from Death Note, he's ready for the show. Welcome back, everyone. This is a brand new season here on our podcast, so if you're just joining us for the first time, you've found a great place to start. We're kicking off a new season, a bit of a new competition. Frank, I'm going to go over how the show works, and you stop me if I get one of our very few rules incorrect.
Yeah, I'm good at that. Okay.
He's going to do objection. He's going to hit me with the objection, and we'll stop everything.
Overruled.
Overruled, sustained. Okay, so you've never heard the show before. The way Meet Your Double Feature works is that Frank and I are going to review two movies for you tonight. Each of us selected one for the other to watch that neither of us had ever seen previously. So when each of us get to our assigned film, we're going to break down basically what it is, as well as what we thought of it, and then whoever made the better blind movie pick for tonight's episode is declared the winner. Which, historically, if you've been following us, I'm usually the winner. But we'll see if Frank can turn that around.
Wow. I mean, that's not true.
That was a good chance for an objection. He didn't do it.
Okay. All right. Back to one.
Back to one. No, forward on. Okay. So we also have a brand new season premise here as we kick off a new adventure. Frank, do you want to let the people know, and if they have not heard already, what is our premise for this season on the show?
Do you hear the people sing? We are doing
French Revolution movies. That's right. 6 weeks of French Revolution movies.
Okay, let me check my list here. I got none. I didn't even write down Les Miserables because I couldn't pronounce it. So we are. It's the one with Anne Hathaway and Wolverine. We're gonna instead. Is he in that? I think Hugh Jackman's in that.
Yes, he is. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah. I'll get to Hugh Jackman later. We're doing, what are we doing? Oh, yeah, we're doing sequels. We're doing forgotten sequels this season.
Forgotten movie sequels. We're going to be taking a look at totally buried follow-ups to what are often very famous movies, especially with the ones we're kicking off with tonight. In the second half of our program, Frank has asked me to review the long years later sequel to the famous film Lawrence of Arabia. And Frank, kicking us off our first review of the season, we've got you talking about the sequel to The Wizard of Oz. Did people know that there was a sequel to The Wizard of Oz?
Have you heard of the first one?
Yeah.
There's an
Michael
original.
Jackson.
We'll get into that. There's a lot of Oz out there. There's a lot of
Oz
adaptations.
I mean, you'll know the history better than me at this point because you've watched it and read a bit about it, I assume. I picked it out because I know that original Wizard of Oz, right? 1939, one of the biggest movies ever. Almost anybody has seen it or at least knows about it. And then Return to Oz, I want to say it's 1985. Is that right?
It is. At the time, this was the longest gap in between a movie and its sequel. And that was, I believe, I don't know if anything has done it since. It was overtaken by Bambi 2. That was a longer gap between the original Bambi and Bambi 2, which came out in like 2002 or 2008 or something.
Wow, they held off on Bambi for 60 years. That's crazy.
Yeah. But they held off on Oz for a long time, too.
A long, good time. Yep. And I do know, as far as why I picked this one out, not only is it a sequel to Wizard of Oz that came so much later as to be almost unrecognizable as a sequel, but everything I've ever read is that the movie is for children, but like weirdly scary.
It is. Yeah. This movie, I have a note here that, like elevator pitch, it's usually like this meets that. I wrote this movie feels like Never-Ending Story meets Clockwork Orange. So.
Wow. That is a vivid picture you have painted. I feel like we're in for a ride.
It's honestly, so I'll say this right out the gate. This movie's great. I like
Oh.
Return to Oz.
Good. Oh my God. If you listen to season 2 of our show, all of those superhero movies were bad. So I am glad that we're coming out with a winner.
I like both of our picks for this first. This feels right. A sequel to The Wizard of Oz, a sequel to Lawrence of Arabia. Where those are like real movies. You know, that's
Real
like cinema.
movies. Cinema. Yeah, this is the big time. We were small time for a minute there, but now we're big time again.
Yeah, never again. We're all the way to the top from here on out.
To the top. Yep. Okay. So Return of the Oz, good movie. I mean, I'll let you take it away. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't even really know where to start. I guess I mentioned Hugh Jackman briefly earlier. I went to go
that was
see.
Weird.
Yeah, but there's a reason for it. Okay. So I recently saw that new movie. I think it's just called The Sheep Detectives or The Sheep. Yeah, I think it's The Sheep Detectives. Have you heard about this?
It's him. It's like Hugh Jackman acting opposite like animated talking sheep, right?
Yes, he's not in much of the movie because he dies at the beginning. Spoiler, but
oh my goodness, do you hear the people say? Man, I can't believe the sheep got him like that.
The sheep did it. Another spoiler. So that movie, also one of the stars of that movie is, I don't know his name, but it's the actor that plays He-Man. So I don't know when this movie's going to come out in relation to our He-Man review. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That guy's, ooh. Well, don't like sheep detectives then, I guess.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because they mention Return to Oz in that movie. There's like a joke in that movie where it's set in, I believe, like a fictional town, or it could be a real town. I don't know. But
what is this? Scotland?
Yeah, it was a town I've never heard of. Let's just say that. Okay. And there's a joke in the movie where they're like, "Oh yeah, Return to Oz was filmed like right up the street from here," and like the characters, like, because that's like their town's claim to fame. They're like, everyone says it's superior to the original, and it's like this like big joke, I guess, because it's supposed to be bad, you know?
Oh, interesting. Wait, was the popular reception for the movie not good?
Well, it's like a cult classic situation. It was,
okay.
I think, poorly received by critics at the time. It did not do well at the box office, and that kind of ties into some of the behind the scenes stuff we can get into, where there was a lot of behind the scenes drama with this movie, and maybe we should start there, actually, before we get
with Return to Oz, not Sheep Detectives, I assume.
I don't know. Those sheeps are really hard to work with, you know?
One of them killed Hugh Jackman. I can't believe it.
They went method. They just killed him on set. But yeah, the director of this movie was Walter Murch, and he has directed this movie, one episode of the animated Star Wars Clone Wars TV show, and that's it. Those are the two things he's ever directed.
Wait. He directed Return to Oz in 1985, and then a Clone Wars episode in what, like 2010?
Yeah, 2011, I think.
Was there an homage in the Star Wars episode?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. But the reason for that is because he's primarily a sound editor who has worked with like Spielberg and George Lucas and Coppola, so he's kind of big time in the industry, but not as a director. This was his only attempt at directing a feature film. And some of the behind the scenes drama was early into production. The studio wasn't happy with the dailies they were seeing, and they were like a little behind schedule. And I guess he looked sick. He was sick while they were filming, and he looked ill. So for a week, they fired him off the film. But then, because he was friends with George Lucas from doing the sound editing on Star Wars and stuff and American Graffiti, George Lucas came and was like, "You need to hire this guy again. Let him finish the movie. If you have any further issues, I'll come in and I'll finish directing the movie for him." So wow. George Lucas offered his services, and I looked all this up because I was watching the credits at the end, and there's a special thanks to George Lucas, and I was like, what did he have to do with any of this?
Yeah,
I was like,
that's so
I was like,
bizarre.
should we have just put that at the end of our movie? Just special thanks to George Lucas, just because, like,
He's a big inspiration.
Misa like him.
Okay,
Yeah.
so George Lucas did not ever actually get involved because the other guy was able to finish the film, right?
So he finished the movie, and then new executives took over at Disney. So I should say this is actually, I think, maybe the first, like, have we ever done a Disney movie on the podcast before? Because this is
No, we briefly talked about Disney Hercules on our Remem episode once, but never like a full review.
yeah,
It's
this is
interesting.
it's also kind of a fun little trivia. This is the first movie that ever used that Disney logo with like the rainbow going over the castle that you've seen before, like all like, the old animated Disney movies and like Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. They've been using it for like, they've updated it since, but this was the first one that ever used that like traditional Disney Animation Studios logo.
Interesting. I like this. This is good trivia.
It is. It's fun. This was all very interesting to me. But this, before we get into the movie, this is the last thing I'll say because it ties into how the movie was received and when it was new. So there was the executives that didn't have faith in the director and fired him, but then George Lucas got him brought back on. But then in post-production for the movie, new executives took over at Disney and had no faith in this movie being successful. So they gave it very limited advertising. They like cut its advertising budget and gave it a very short theatrical run. So it made like no money because they
Okay.
sabotaged it so nobody would see it, basically.
That always seems weird. I understand like not wanting to overinvest if you think you won't get a return on it, but how is the solution not to do like a medium approach? Like intentionally making it so people don't even know the movie exists.
Yeah, you're almost guaranteed to lose money that way.
You'd think the goal would be like, let's create enough of a buffer to gauge if the people who are seeing it, like, here's what I would do. If I was the head of Disney in 1985, I would
tell
say,
us what you would do.
let's do full-scale promotion in a specific market. You know what I mean? Like, why don't we market it in like Seattle? We're like, Seattle, come see Return to Oz. And then if that was doing well, you could expand the market. All right, maybe there's a reason I'm not in charge of marketing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Shout out to you, Seattle. We know you would like this.
Yeah, this seems right up your alley. George Lucas was nearby.
He was around. Special
made.
thanks.
Special thanks.
Yeah.
Could be anywhere.
It could be. Thanks. So anyway, I guess a theory I might have as to why they didn't have faith in the movie once they started seeing it in post-production is that it is tonally very odd. I think, like, it looks like a kid's movie, but they weren't making a movie for kids, basically, because it is very scary in a way. It's just, it has, like, scary imagery, but, like, your main character is this young girl. So, to get into that, this was also just a baffling sort of production ideology in terms of making this movie, and why I don't think it landed with people either is because this is like sort of a sequel to the Wizard of Oz movie, but it's more explicitly a sequel to the book because there's many things that don't align with the original movie. Our main character is Dorothy. It's Dorothy and Toto are there, but she's like a very young girl. So it's not supposed to be like a direct continuation of the previous movie, even though it takes place after those events because it's based on the book. But then they also wanted to do some things that audiences would be like visually familiar with. So like, for example, in the book, there are no ruby slippers. The original like Dorothy character in the book, I think they're like silver or something, like the magic slipper she uses to get home.
Oh, okay. Well, it makes sense they changed it to ruby because Wizard of Oz famously was a very early popular like color film. So I'm sure
Absolutely.
the red was done.
Yeah.
It's like silver would look too much like the black and white that they transition out of in the opening. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly why they wanted to take advantage of that. And so they made them the ruby slippers. And so in this movie, even though it's not a sequel to that movie, they thought audiences would be confused, so they had to actually pay MGM for the rights to use the ruby slippers in this movie. Because
Oh, so that's okay. So maybe they would have done it more like a movie sequel if they had the rights to the whole film.
maybe, but according to the director, they never wanted to make a sequel to that movie. But they also didn't want to confuse people. And in doing so, I think confused a lot of people.
Confused a lot of people. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's a weird conversation. Like, we wanted to Wizard of Oz, but we can't remake Wizard of Oz because it's super famous. So let's do the second part, but sort of make it a sequel and sort of not. Odd.
Super odd. Yeah. Wizard of Odd. But
Got it.
So to get into it, the movie is very tonally strange. I mean, the beginning feels like someone's creepypasta of Wizard of Oz. Because it's all just so upsetting. The beginning of the movie takes place after the events of the original film that people would be familiar with. And so we're back on the farm with Dorothy and her aunt and uncle, I guess it is. Auntie M, whatever.
Auntie M. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
I thought you were making a Star Wars joke. I thought you were Owen in Peru, right?
Yeah, no, it's special thanks George Lucas.
Special thanks George Lucas. He let us use Jar Jar. We said no.
Yeah. They wanted in 1985. They wanted Mr. Binks, but they couldn't negotiate his contract.
And then he was like, "If you're not going to use it for this, I'm gonna use it. I already made the suit.
I've written it down. It's right here, just waving Phantom Menace in their face."
You're not ready for this, but your kids are gonna hate it.
He's like, "Anyway, call me if you need me to direct this whatever movie or Oz or whatever. Bye."
And then he got his hot air balloon and he left.
Right, exactly. George Lucas is the wizard.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, please continue. So they start back on the farm. So I guess, I'm sure you'll explain, but Dorothy in the original movie is a teenager or whatever, not supposed to be quite as young. Is Dorothy the character a little kid in the original book? Is that why she's still a kid here?
She must be. I think the original character is much younger than she was portrayed in the original film. So we have a little 10, 11, 12-year-old girl. I don't know how old she was when she was filming, but she's a young girl. And it's so upsetting because she's talking about Oz and they're like, "Okay, you're crazy, go to bed." And they're like, "There's something wrong with Dorothy. She keeps talking about this Oz place." And they're also upset because the tornado destroyed their home, and they're saying, "We can't pay the mortgage anymore because this tornado came through." And it's just all of the sad reality aftermath of the happy ending of the original movie. Because
that's not, if the first one ends and she's like, "And you were there, and you were there," and they're like, "Shut up, Dorothy, the mortgage man
Shut
is
up,
here.
There was a tornado. What are you talking about?"
All the cows are dead, Dorothy.
All the cows are dead. The chickens, think about the chickens.
Think of the chickens. Anyway, yeah, so that's the opening, is just misery.
Yes, and so they take Dorothy, because she can't sleep. She's having insomnia because of her adventures in Oz, and so her aunt is like, "Well, we got to take her to this place where they're gonna lobotomize her, basically." They want to try this electroshock therapy on her to try and get her to stop having these what they think are nightmares about Oz. And that part of the movie, then it turns into One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
That's how it sounds, yeah.
Yeah, with little girl Dorothy, there's just these evil, I don't know, psychiatric scientist characters that are strapping her to a bed, and she's like, "I don't want to be. Why are you strapping me down?" And they're like, "It's for your own safety." And they're wheeling her through this place where there's other patients who are screaming, and the lights are flickering on and off. It's what? So this is why I was saying it feels like somebody's creepypasta. I was like, "What is this?"
Right. What's the one where there's this popular one where it's all of the Pokemon TV show was Ash having a fever dream right before he dies in a hospital, and it ends with Pikachu jumping into his arms. It's that, but for Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. That. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And I'm like, this is amazing. What a wonderful choice to make this horribly depressing and strange. And so they're going to do this electroshock therapy on her, and like the way they like visualize it is like they're like holding these two like prongs or whatever that they're gonna put on her head, and there's like actual like lightning bolts going between them. So
we're gonna make you a Frankenstein, Dorothy.
basically. But there's like a storm happening outside, so it makes it even scarier. But then like the storm like knocks out the power to the building, and while that happens, Dorothy is able to escape, but she like is running away and like falls into like a stream, and you know, is knocked unconscious, and she wakes up back in Oz. So this is like our setup for getting her back into her return to Oz.
Okay. That's crazy. What an insane intro. I could understand doing the like, oh, that's all in your head, and she has to be like, no, but I remember, and it just being more like a sad thing with like a kid's imaginary friend. But no, they're like, Dorothy, you've got the sickness. We gotta fix it.
Seriously, like, you got the consumption, kid. Like, you're going down.
The consumption. Much worse.
We gotta put you down, little fella. Also, we gotta figure out a way to pay the mortgage because the house is gone and we gotta rebuild it. Like, this is
you were
all
supposed to start working
sad.
the farm like tomorrow.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So we get past that part. She wakes up on her second isekai adventure, I guess. Was the first isekai, by the way?
What's like this stupid like anime overlong title version of this? It's just like, I woke up in another world and met a scarecrow without a brain.
Also, I have a chicken. That's a weird part of the story for some reason.
Wait, does she have a chicken?
She does. She has her. So Toto doesn't come with her this time, actually.
What?
Toto stays at home when they take her to the insane asylum psychiatric place where they're going to lobotomize her.
Toto's like, Oz, never heard of it. Take her away.
She's like, that goes crazy. I never been there. Bark, bark, woof. You know what I'm saying?
Toto just speaks English to the other characters, and they're just like, I know, right? She's crazy. And then they walk her away. Okay, so now she has a chicken. Just does the chicken have a name?
Ooh, yes. I didn't write it down. The chicken does have a name. Dang, I want to say it's like Clarice or something. That could be totally wrong.
You know, you keep going. I'll look up the chicken's name.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say about the chicken is, and just kind of the movie in general, is there is a lot of fun visual effects. Not special effects, but like visual effects, because the chicken hen, because it's a girl chicken, is like a puppet for a lot of the movie. And it's like really fun. It's kind of like we were talking about recently with like Grogu. It's just this cute kind of like puppet character. And the chicken does talk. The chicken talks to Dorothy.
The chicken's name, I found it. The chicken's name is Belina.
Belina. What did I say? That's what I said.
You said Grogu.
Belina. Yeah.
Grogu the chicken.
Grogu the chicken. Squawk squawk or whatever. So she's hanging out with Grogu the chicken, who's like a little puppet. And this movie also uses other like fun visual effects. There's a lot of like stop motion effects for some of the villain characters. And so it's all just very visually interesting and very clearly of a high production value, which that's always kind of a great weird thing when you have a creepy, strange movie like this, but it is really well produced. Because this has that like Disney polish to it. It really does look like Neverending Story in terms of like the production level.
Yeah, I could picture that, especially with some of the effects, like the puppetry and that makes sense.
Yeah. But then you just immediately get into the crazy stuff that came from like the original Wizard of Oz book, which I guess we can get into that briefly too. There's a ton of Oz cinematic universe stuff out there. There was
back in the day they just called it series of books, but yeah, cinematic universe.
Well, yes, there was a lot of different books originally, but I mean, just in like pop culture, there's been so many film adaptations that are completely unrelated too, since the original movie.
Right, there's The Wiz, which kind of has its own crazy history and is notable for that. There's the Muppets one.
There's the Muppets, yes.
There's the Oz the Great and Powerful, the James Franco one, which is a Sam Raimi movie, which I always forget.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. And then there's the Wicked movies, of course, which have kind of, I would say, are some of the more popular iterations of this.
Popular, good one.
Yeah, I get it.
This guy, top of his game. It's a new season.
And it's a new season. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, no, to be fair, I'd forgotten about Wicked too. Yeah, there is kind of a lot.
And I'm like, do people like this that much?
It's a really famous set of characters. Like, I mean, Wizard of Oz aired on TV so often in the early television age and for the longest time afterwards that I feel like just tons of people saw that movie. Enough that you could just keep pulling from that because it'd be like your parents know the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, it just works.
Yeah, but it's funny in this because when she's talking about, which I kind of get why they were ready to zap her brains, because when she was talking about, she's like, oh, my friends, like Scarecrow and Tin Man, and she's talking like specifically about Tin Man. She says that the witch like enchanted him because he was like a woodsman, enchanted him to chop all of his own limbs off with an axe until there was nothing left but a Tin Man or something. I was like, wait.
Wow, that
what?
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like the...
Sorry, what's the old red versus blue joke where he's like, he beat him to death with his own skull. And they're like, that doesn't seem physically possible.
It doesn't seem physically possible. That's a Tin Man, I guess. That's the first red versus blue reference on the pod, which is, I'm glad we brought that in here.
We're cultured. All right, popular.
Yeah, popular. I'm going to sing a rendition of that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, stay tuned.
But it's like the Grimm fairy tales version of this story. Sense. Yeah. So it's so funny that that's what they chose to adapt for this movie instead of the very familiar, popular one.
You can't do both. You can't be like, look, the ruby slippers and the limbless Tin Man. It's like, that's two different things.
Yeah, this is totally not matching up here. And even like right away when she lands in Oz, she starts talking about all this stuff that she's familiar with from her first time there. And where she lands with her chicken friend, she's like, oh yeah, this is what does she call it? It's the something desert, where if you touch the sand, you turn to sand and die instantly. And I'm just like, nope, that's not in the original movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
The original just had the, what was it, the asbestos forest?
The asbestos forests, yeah.
I guess maybe people wouldn't know that. There's a scene in the original Wizard of Oz where they pour like sleeping powder on everybody. But they were literally pouring asbestos on them because they didn't know how bad that was for you at the time.
Yeah, well, and then people actually really got sick from that, right?
They did. I mean, honestly, the production of Wizard of Oz was Return to Oz. I mean, Judy Garland was like so horribly abused on the set of that film.
Oh yeah, it's awful. Yeah,
this to me, like that's the real meta narrative here. Return to Oz is just Judy Garland trying to explain making Wizard of Oz.
Oh wow, I get it. And they're like, anyway, you're crazy. Here's this zap juice to your brains now.
No, so sad.
It is.
Okay, so I'm getting the vibe. I got a strong sense of the vibe of the movie. You're saying that you still liked it just because it was so like novel, like it still worked and like you said had polish, right?
It wasn't even so much the polish that I liked. It was the weird elements of it. I liked that it was very tonally dark, that it was strange. There was so many, like it felt like a nightmare. Instead, like the original Wizard of Oz was like a dream. This was like walking through a nightmare because there's like the first, she finds the yellow brick road. It's all destroyed. She finds her way back to the Emerald City. Everyone is like turned to stone. You see like stone statues of like the Cowardly Lion and the Tin Man. And she's trying to find the Scarecrow, who I guess in the original story, he became like the King of Oz. And so she's like, why isn't Scarecrow here? He's supposed to be the King of Oz. And then her and her chicken friend get attacked by this group of characters called the Wheelers. like Joey Wheeler, I guess.
Joey Wheeler, yeah. It's like,
yeah.
Time Wizard, and they're like, no.
Time Wizard. Yeah. And it's just these are actual stunt performers. So it's guys who have wheels on their hands and feet. They're going around on like all fours, but on wheels, and chasing her down. And they reminded me of like the Jokers from Batman Beyond.
Okay, dude, you're pulling some sick references this episode. Yes,
Yeah.
The Jokers, where it's like a gang of jester clowns with weird weapons and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that's yeah. And so they like chase her through the city, and then she's able to escape them and kind of hides in this room where she finds a mechanical man, not like a tin man, but basically like a robot guy. And this guy's a great character. His name is TikTok.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Like we all know TikTok. This is what
he doesn't have a brain.
Yes. Well, literally. So his whole thing, he's like the opposite of Data from Star Trek. He is very aware that he's not alive, and that's his favorite trait about himself.
Nice.
Just,
it's like, if I only had a soul. Like,
yeah, no, he doesn't want that though. He was like, that would be awful if I had a soul.
Okay.
Like there's like he's like powered down, and she has to turn him back on, and it says on his back, the mechanical man does everything but live. And I'm like, that's kind of a fire bar, actually. And then she like,
can I make that my Insta bio?
Right, yeah, exactly. I was like, that's kind of great. And he's referred to as the Army of Oz. Just this one guy, this one robot is the Army of Oz. And I'm like, pop off, dude. That's great, TikTok. You're the whole army.
That's pretty cool.
She meets like a whole new cast of wacky characters, but they're so much more odd than even the original ones, and more like second, like rough draft idea characters, because you have him. She meets a character who's, I think they just call him Pumpkinhead or Jack Pumpkinhead. And
Pumpkinhead.
Yeah. Well, and he's an interesting character too, because he looks like, his face especially, it's like a jack-o'-lantern. It's like a face carved into a pumpkin. And he looks almost exactly like Jack Skellington, the Tim Burton character.
Oh, yeah.
And Tim Burton himself has said that was the inspiration for Jack Skellington, was Jack Pumpkinhead from this movie.
I love that they're like, this guy's got a jack-o'-lantern for a head. Why don't we call him Jack Pumpkinhead?
Pumpkinhead.
Good.
We got it. I think we figured that out right away, guys.
There was no better option. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like her weirdest friend is just, it's a moose head, like, that has been mounted on the wall, and talks about remembering his old life when he was a regular moose, and then he got killed and mounted on the wall as a moose head. And they attach him to different things. Like, they attach him to a couch at one point, and he's able to like help move the couch with them. And he's always talking about when he was alive and a moose. And I was just like, this is so morbid and strange. I really like it, actually.
Yeah. None of the characters in Wizard of Oz were like constantly drawing. I guess in a way they're all kind of like dead creatures, because like the Tin Man was basically dead until he got restored, and then Scarecrow didn't have a brain. But like, this is so much more overt, that it's like, look, my friend, the soulless laundry machine, and the like depressed Pumpkinhead, and the moose head.
Yeah, and like I almost called him Jack Skellington, but the Jack Pumpkinhead character is really sad too, because he's also kind of like a scarecrow. They're kind of derivative, actually, of the original crew. But he talks about the person who made him. He was calling his mom, and like, he doesn't know where his mom is, because, you know, she like made him as a scarecrow. And then he talks about like one of the evil characters they encounter in this movie like attacking her, I think. And so the implication is that like his mom died. And so when he's talking to Dorothy, he's like, can I call you mom? Can you be my mom? And so his character's just like really sad and depressing, because he's just like this, he's supposed to be like this young character that was just born, in a sense, and he's just looking for his mother, and he like imprints that on Dorothy, who herself is just like a young kid.
Yeah. This is, bummer city for this one, but it does sound really interesting.
But I feel like I'm selling it like it is really depressing, and it is in a way, but in a way that works because of just the pacing of it is very good. It keeps like moving from like one absurd situation to the next in a similar way that the original story did, but just like visually and tonally it's much darker. The main villains of this movie are kind of scary too. The first like kind of sub-villain they encounter is a witch lady who decapitates other women so that she can wear different heads.
Okay.
Right? Like with their So
okay.
Which right? Isn't that like wild?
It's
but
wild
kind of
for
great.
a movie that ultimately you were saying that the movie doesn't feel like it's actually aimed at like a family audience, right?
No, and I don't think that was their intention. I think they were just trying to make a movie.
Because if it's a kids movie, that's crazy. Like if this movie's supposed to be like take little, but unfortunately, I think that's what happened. Is that it was like a home video boom where a lot of people did show it to their kids because they were like Wizard of Oz, and then it was a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think that's why it had this sort of initial backlash against it, but now has sort of a cult following because people have come back around to it, especially people that like horror stuff and just kind of creepy vibe stuff in general. This is kind of perfect for that. I mean, like I said, Tim Burton, who's like grade A weirdo, like he liked this movie enough to emulate one of his characters, like, you know. So that's the stuff I really liked about it because it was so unfamiliar to me too. It was taking something that was really familiar, like it's literally Dorothy, she's in the Wizard of Oz. All of these similar elements are there, but mixing in this weird, dark, twisted fantasy stuff.
Yeah, that I feel like we're already getting into what interests me about sequels. I mean, this applies to them in any media, but like by creating a follow-up story, you upset the ending of the first one. If the character has a happy ending one time, but then in the second film everything goes wrong, they kind of didn't have the happy ending. It like retroactively affects how you see the original story. And I feel like this would almost fundamentally change like your perception of Wizard of Oz.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I mean with the beginning. The beginning, it was exactly like you said with the whole Ash Ketchum thing. It's like, you can't survive getting struck by lightning. He's dead.
He's clearly dead and he's dying, and he didn't see Ho-Oh. All right, he saw God because he's dying.
Yeah, there's no Ho-Oh here either. It's just, we can't afford the farm. Dorothy is crazy and can't sleep. It's just, it absolutely upsets the ending, the happily ever after of the first movie. And you were there, and you were there.
And you were there, and yeah, exactly. So often when people will make like, especially like a legacy sequel that bombs or just a one too many sequels, you'll hear that a lot, the refrain of like, well, that doesn't change the first movie. People who didn't like Ghostbusters 2 will be like, well, we always had the first one. And it's like, not really. Once you've seen the other one, if it's not completely separate in your mind, like this one, 50 years later, still feels connected to movie Wizard of Oz enough to like affect your perception of both.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say yes and no to that. Because people, you know, if you don't like a modern adaptation of something that you liked previously or an earlier installment, that one is still always there. I mean, the original Die Hard is one of my favorite movies of all time. I pretend like some of those sequels don't exist, and that's fine. But to an extent, also, yes, it is kind of hard to ignore them sometimes. This, to your point about, you know, getting into movie sequels, this is a great way to approach a sequel, I think, is to take it in a completely different direction. Because there's a sort of sequelitis type thing where a lot of sequels will just do the same thing. They'll hit the same beats, essentially try and make the same movie as a way to just cash in again on an idea that they already had.
Same arc, same tone. Yeah.
Totally. Same characters, all of it. This was like, no, we're still in this world. That original still exists for what it is. This is almost a completely different thing, but it's building off of that with characters and a setting that is familiar from this other story that you know. So you can kind of buy into things a lot quicker, but we're going to do something completely different with that. And that is what I really liked about it. because they could have just made like a really like milquetoast version of a Wizard of Oz sequel.
It could have been like Dorothy's daughter goes to Oz and meets like some of the same characters and brings her pet chicken or whatever.
And then she has to learn a lesson. I don't think there's any lessons learned in this movie other than just like terror.
Yeah, I guess I am curious. I mean, I feel like we've left enough open and you've talked positively enough about the movie that we can encourage people to go watch it. But I am kind of curious, what do we get as the ending? Because if Dorothy leaves Oz again, does she just return to her horrible nightmare life on Earth?
Well, oh my gosh. One of my favorite lines from the ending is so the end of this movie of her time in Oz is pretty derivative of the original one. I will say, as I mentioned, some of the characters are. There's definitely some piggybacking going on, despite the fact that this took things in a completely new direction. The climax of the movie, before I get to the actual ending, the climax of the movie, there's just a fun moment because the main villain, I mentioned, the sort of a sub-villain is the witch who kind of is taking different women's heads and wearing them. And that's kind of fun too because she's played by, it's like the same character being played by multiple different actresses because she keeps switching her
fun.
head out,
like
you know?
that.
Yeah. But the main villain is the Gnome King, and he's the one who has like captured the Scarecrow. He's the one that's kind of taken over Oz. And at one point, he has sort of captured all of Dorothy's new friends and turned them into like little stone ornaments. And he is like offering to her, like, oh, you could try and save them, or I have your ruby slippers right here if you want to go home. And he's like wearing them and like mocking her and going like, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. I was like, that's hilarious. Like,
because that also, I guess, is that language in the book? There's no place like home, or is that also
that I don't know. I don't know that because there was, I think I read they were even gonna change something like in one version of this script for this movie. He was gonna have like taken the ruby slippers and like crush them and turn them into like a ruby crown or something and have his own version of it that he like changed the ruby slippers into. But I think this is way better that he's just like this like evil gnome king guy who's like, they do an interesting effect with him too where he starts actually as sort of a stop motion kind of claymation character, and then like throughout the scene where they're first talking to him like transitions into just like an actor in like makeup and prosthetics.
Huh.
And so I thought that was great visually. And yeah, and I just thought it was so much better that he was like literally wearing the slippers and like mocking her and doing her little thing.
Again, that's a nightmare thing. Like, I feel like all the common traits in bad dreams is weird senses of like, you can't move correctly, or like you're just trying to do a simple thing and it's just not working. And I feel like this captures that.
Yeah, totally. So that was a great little moment, like leading up to the climax of the film. And I guess that was like the character moment for Dorothy, where it's like, oh, she could, I guess, take the easy way out and go home and leave her friends, but she decides to stay and help them. But the actual ending of the movie, they beat the bad guy. They have celebration in Oz. She goes home and she wakes up like on the side of this river that she got dragged down, and you know, her aunt and uncle find her and they're just happy that she's alive, you know, and she's asking what happened to the institution that they sent her to, because that was where she ran away from, like during this storm. And her aunt tells her, she's like, oh, it burned down. She's like, nobody got hurt except for the head scientist guy. He ran in to save his machines and he burned to death. It was so funny.
That's
like, what?
awesome. That feels like a lie that you tell your kid when you realize like, oh, she's gonna be sad if that guy's still with us. So no, he ran inside. He's dead.
He ran inside to save his machines. The machines that he was gonna like zap her brain with. He was so concerned about these things.
Not my lobotomy machines.
Yeah. And he died. I was just like, it was such a like Poochie died on the way back to his home planet moment. I was just like, that's hilarious. And that's like the end of the movie. Then it's like, okay, then they walk off, you know, into the sunset. And I was like, no, that was a hilarious way to end that. It's so unnecessary to say that guy died. Because
you gotta remove the threat, you know? It's gotta be, I don't know. Was he, okay, so in the original Wizard of Oz, the people from her farm
yes.
are the people playing the characters in the movie. Did they do that again?
Correct. That was him. That was the Gnome King. His assistant was the woman who was playing like the main version of the witch woman who was switching her heads out.
That's good.
And like she gets like at the end of her time in Oz, that witch is like trapped in like a cage, and then as the movie ends in the real world, you see her getting like carried away in like a horse-drawn carriage, and she's like holding her hands up against the bars, so like she's kind of in a cage too.
Okay. Honestly,
but the guy dying in the fire.
The guy died in the fire. I mean, really. Just
hilarious to me. I was laughing so much at that at the end. And then the movie just ends, and I was like, that's great. Special thanks, George Lucas.
Thanks, George Lucas. You used to thinking we were going to die?
Yes. Yes, we are, Mr. Binks.
That's amazing. Honestly, I'm so glad. Like, I didn't even look at the critical consensus on Return to Oz before asking you to watch it. I was just like, bizarre. I don't know how you make a sequel to this, and it does sound like they had a good angle.
They did, and I guess they had good source material to pull from, because I think they had access to the books, and they were able to pull whatever they wanted, because I think they pulled from multiple different follow-up books to Wizard of Oz, so this wasn't like a one-to-one adaptation of any of those stories. It's just kind of like mixed elements together from some of them, and I think it was just underappreciated. I think like right out of the gate this season with forgotten movie sequels, we found like an actually underappreciated movie sequel that was bold enough to take an iconic film and go in a completely different direction and get really weird with it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. I was really entertained by that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds great. This might be the one, like, I think every season I usually go back and watch at least like one of the movies that I had you watch, and we already got a contender. We got a good one.
I don't think you'd be disappointed at all. I think you'd actually appreciate because the visuals are interesting. It's hard to, I mean, I'm sure you have a visual idea based on what I've described, but there's even more to it that I haven't gotten to that I'm sure you'd appreciate as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we can safely recommend this one to the audience as well, like you're saying, a legit, like, people online sometimes talk about Return to Oz, but I mean, most people are going to have no idea what this is, or especially, like, watch it themselves. So go check it out. It's Frank certified.
Yeah.
Certified Frank.
Certified Frank.
On Rotten Tomatoes.
It's just like a big red stamp of an F, so it looks like you failed.
Maybe my seal of approval. Big red Sharpie F. Yep.
F minus. Where did that come from?
It means Frank won't be there, but he wants you to watch it.
But you should. I won't be there, but you should.
George Lucas might be there. He's going to be around.
If you need him, just in case. Got Lucas in the wings.
In case of emergency, break George or whatever.
Oh no, don't break George.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. We'll head into our intermission now. And then coming back on the other side of the break, Frank, I'll take a look at the movie you asked me to watch, 1992's Lawrence After Arabia. So stay tuned for that.
I will.
Well, okay. Yeah, you better, because otherwise...
Oh, were you talking to the audience? Or
yeah, mostly the audience, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll wait.
All right, coming back now, the other half of our program tonight. Frank, we're going to be talking about the movie you asked me to watch, 1992's A Dangerous Man, Lawrence After Arabia. This one, I had no idea existed.
Oh, me neither.
You just found this one, like, in looking up forgotten sequels? Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's the first episode right there.
I mean, understandable. I think I have said to you, at least multiple times, that I don't have, like, a singular, like, favorite movie of all time, but if I ever have to list, like, a couple in a row, Lawrence of Arabia from 62 is definitely up there. I mean, for me, I would usually toss out, like, Lord of the Rings or, I don't know, It's a Wonderful Life, and then maybe Lawrence of Arabia just right in there, because I really, really like that movie, despite the fact that it is one of those, like, 3.5 hour long epics. Those are hard to get into because they're so, like, intimidating, but that first Lawrence of Arabia film is just one of the most beautifully shot movies of all time. Like, it is
oh, for sure, yeah.
so old already now and is still genuinely awe-inspiring, like the cinematography in that film. And it has one of my favorite performances ever with Peter O'Toole as T.E. Lawrence, like in his film debut, which makes it even better. It's just such a instantly iconic role.
I'm pretty sure his film debut was Supergirl, but
1984 Supergirl. Yeah. Because he's like, when you go into the negative zone, right? That's outside of time. So technically, that happened first.
Technically, Phantom Zone.
Phantom Zone, right? Negative Zone is a different superhero thing, isn't it?
I think so. It's all the same.
All right, check out our superhero season for more gibberish like that.
Talking about real movies here.
Talking about real movies.
The second
films.
Lawrence of Arabia.
The second one. I guess. So this is one where, like, unlike Wizard of Oz, I think people know the title, Lawrence of Arabia. But again, a lot of people nowadays maybe haven't actually seen the movie. Frank, have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. No, I've definitely seen it. I like that movie a lot, too.
Okay. For a while, I know you hadn't, because I would talk to you about it when I had first watched it. I know you hadn't caught it then. But, okay, that's helpful, because that'll help me in explaining what this one is about.
And I was like, I've only seen the sequel. I've only seen him after Arabia.
I've only seen the sequel.
I don't know the origin story.
What is this, Lawrence before, after Arabia? I don't understand. So, for context for anybody who maybe only knows that movie by name, Lawrence of Arabia is a historical epic about a real man named T.E. Lawrence. It's a British film about a British guy who was like a lieutenant in the British Army during World War I and successfully united a group of Arabic tribes to help overthrow like the Ottoman Empire's control of, they say Damascus, which I think is modern day Syria. I'm going to get the geography wrong a couple of times because that is not my strong suit. But essentially, from a storytelling perspective, the original film is about this man going and essentially becoming one with a completely different culture than his own and sort of being swept up in the romanticism of fighting in the desert and like uniting these opposing groups together in order to achieve this big goal, all underneath the larger umbrella of historical context that in that original story, Lawrence is promising to these Arabic tribes that when the war is over, the Arabs will have independence. They will not be like colonized by the rest of Europe. But ultimately, that is what happens, is that as soon as the war is over, their independence is stripped away, and like the land that they helped seize, which like turned the tide of World War I in some ways, is just divided up into like pockets of influence between France and the UK and other places. So it's a very tragic outcome for what is still a very like rousing kind of adventuring story for these characters.
Yeah.
That seem accurate?
I don't know, but sure.
No, this is the first movie. You've seen the first movie.
Yeah. The match. I remember the match. And
he blows out there's a very famous match cut where he's holding a literal match that is lit, and then he blows out the flame, and it instantly match cuts to the rising sun in the desert. Very beautiful cinematography, like I said. Literally, go watch that movie. Like, I'm going to get into the sequel, but if you haven't seen it, it is a classic movie that is worth going back for, because it's truly super fun. The sequel, Frank, very interesting. Better?
10 times better?
11 times better? It's like comparing Star Wars to the Star Wars prequels, You come in with fresh ideas a little while later, and you just make the original irrelevant,
It's just nobody talks about it anymore. They actually
cares.
get mad if you bring it up.
George says, none of this Leia crap. It's all Jar Jar now.
I'm doing Return to Oz now.
Yeah. So Lawrence After Arabia is very, very different movie. Like, it follows, much like Return to Oz, it is like a different point in history for the same group of characters. So it's very much like, here's what happened next, if you had questions following the end of the original story. But the presentation is turned on its head once again, because the original film has a lot of action and violence and adventure in it, and it's this very like rousing, emotionally resonant story. And Lawrence After Arabia is just like the soul-sucking politics of actual Arab independence being stripped away while Lawrence tries desperately to stop it from happening. Like, this movie takes place in buildings. That's the movie. It's people talking in rooms and being sad.
Oh, darn, really? not what I expected. The first one is such a travel story. He goes to so many different places in that one. There's
It
that cool
is.
scene with the train.
There's an awesome scene, yeah, because the rebel group that Lawrence was fighting with, that was a big thing they accomplished, was they disrupted a lot of supply lines via train that were like passing through the desert, and they do all these cool scenes with that. But the sequel film, first thing to understand, Frank, maybe you didn't see this when you're looking at it, is a TV movie. So the scope of it is very, very narrow.
Ah,
Yep.
didn't know that.
Yep. It was, again, it's a British production. The timeline, I think, was that the original film was re-released into theaters in the early 90s, and then right after that, they went into production on this follow-up that, while well acted and interesting and honoring like the rest of the developments of that first story, kind of feels like something you'd see on like, I think it literally aired on PBS. You know, that kind of content where like it has the makings of a movie, but is so informational almost that
Yeah.
it kind of has this like very like sedate pace to it.
It's kind of cozy though, or can be, I would think.
This one is cozy, yeah, and again, we're talking about what makes a sequel work, and I think having a story to tell rather than retread, this has, because ultimately, the way the original film ends, Lawrence, played by Peter O'Toole, like leaves the desert. He goes back to England, and his relationship with Prince Faisal, who is like the head of this like revolutionary group that they had formed, you're not sure what their relationship is by the end of that story, because ultimately, the way the original film tells it, it's a little more vague. He's trying to make sure that, like, you know, he's like, we're going to reach Damascus first, and we're going to seize it, and then we're not going to let the Europeans take over, even though Lawrence is a British man himself, and he's working for the army. He's full turncoat. He's like, that's not right. We're going to, like, make sure you maintain your independence. And then as that movie ends, you can tell that it's kind of starting to fall apart, because this group he put together just doesn't have the means. Like, the city they seized is in ruins, and they can't rebuild it. And so it's very, like, ambiguous ending. And this is like, what if we just stuck around and, like, watched this continue to go poorly?
Well, because this is all based on real events, though, right?
Exactly. Which both creates interesting drama, but also kind of hamstrings the actual storytelling in both films. Because, like, the way the first film
Totally.
ends feels abrupt. Like,
Yeah, it
we
does.
get to
I
the end
remember
of
that
the
too.
we get to the end of the adventure, and then it just kind of ends. And it ends with Prince Faisal and the Arab group, like, accepting British military intervention in Damascus just to, like, put the city back together, and Lawrence leaves knowing that he's kind of failed. But then this movie, the second one, picks up at the Paris Peace Conference in 1918 or 19, which was essentially following the formalized ending of World War I after Armistice Day. It is a conference that was designed to basically settle like global affairs at the end of the war, because so much had happened and so many people were involved. It was like the largest scale conflict ever at that point. And so, amongst many other things, they had to decide the fate of the Middle East. And so Lawrence and Faisal, the guy who in the original movie is played by Alec Guinness, arrive at the conference together and spend the entire story trying to advocate again for the Arabs to have independence, and ultimately failing.
Oh, that's the whole movie.
That's the whole movie, is the Paris Peace Conference and the politicking and networking of like a short window in time where like the leaders of the world kind of decided the new geography of the world. So it was this very consequential moment, and what was happening with Lawrence and the Arabs and Syria and all this other stuff, like, was just a part of it. I mean, they talk at various points in the film about like World War I was a lot bigger than you. Like, a lot of people don't even know what you guys were doing over there. Like, they try to trivialize everything that was accomplished in that first story by being like, we got bigger stuff going on. And so there's just a lot of politicking and a lot of like heavy dramatic performances going on, and that's it. Like, there's no set pieces. There's almost zero scenes that even take place outside.
Oh, that's kind of depressing. It sounds educational and interesting to learn about, maybe, but not like an entertaining movie to watch.
It's dense. I would mostly describe it as dense. Like, it does not actually lose sight of being a story about these two characters. Like, they don't get so far to the side that they're talking about like other World War I stuff that doesn't apply. They really keep it focused as a character study on T.E. Lawrence, who this time around is played by Ray Fiennes in his film debut, oddly enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Voldy? Old Voldemort.
Voldemort. That is something I guess I should jump in before I go any further with the story, is casting, because it's very amusing to me. So Ray Fiennes shows up. He's Lawrence. He's essentially trying to play like the same Lawrence that we saw in the first film. This is not really like Return to Oz. Frank, you were saying how it's kind of pulling from that as source material, but kind of pulling from somewhere else. This TV film
this is
really, it's the next thing. It's trying to essentially play it as if we still have Peter O'Toole. Like we're just continuing on. We have Peter O'Toole at home. His name is Ray Fiennes.
Who's a great actor.
He is a great actor. And what's interesting is, as much as this film went under the radar, especially in the US, where it was maybe never even shown, it was consequential for both of the lead actors, because Ray Fiennes plays Lawrence, and this movie was seen by Steven Spielberg, and that was how Ray Fiennes got cast in Schindler's List.
Wow. And he's amazing in Schindler's List.
He got Academy Award nominated for that. It blew up, like his whole career blew up after that, but the immediate predecessor was his role in this movie.
Interesting. Well, and this does seem right up Spielberg's alley in terms of things he's interested in.
Spielberg does care about that, of course. Yeah, he's making a World War II movie. The other lead actor, who Alexander Siddig, is, as Frank, you and I know him, is the Doctor from Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Julian Bashir.
Actually, I think the actor at the time was going by, he hadn't like Romanized his name. I think in the movie, this one, he's credited as like Siddig El-Fadil.
Okay.
And then sometime later, he changed his first name, like as a stage name, to Alexander. But we know him from Deep Space Nine, and you're not going to believe this. Guess what the Star Trek producers saw that had them cast him for Deep Space Nine?
Whoa, really?
It was this movie.
This movie too?
Yeah.
Wow.
So these two come in, both early in their careers, knock it out of the park with this TV movie, and then both basically, their careers just got kickstarted by this. The other thing, and this is just for the Star Trek fans, apparently when, I think it was producer Rick Berman, saw Fadil in Lawrence After Arabia, he originally brought him in to audition to play Captain Sisko in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, wow. That would have been very different.
Very different. But the way he tells it, or the way it's reported, he didn't realize that Fadil was much younger than he assumed. He was only like 26 at the time. So after meeting him, he was like, oh, no, we should have you audition to be the Doctor, because that's like the young, upstart Starfleet guy. And then the rest is history. That's how he ended up on Star Trek.
I wonder why he thought he'd be... Was he playing an older character in this movie? Why did he not realize how young he was?
The Prince Faisal character, this is a weird one. Like, you could kind of just transpose Peter O'Toole as Lawrence into Ray Fiennes as Lawrence, and it looks the same. Like, the hair and makeup is the same. You could kind of buy it. But in the original film, Prince Faisal is played by the original Obi-Wan Kenobi actor, Alec Guinness. Who's much older. Like,
yeah.
And it in this movie, Faisal and Lawrence are depicted as like peers and like brothers, and they have this like very deep connection that, if you watch the original film, is not the same, because Faisal's depicted as being so much older than him. So that was odd. It kind of takes some of the like brotherhood angle that Lawrence has with other characters in the original film, and then just like funnels it all into his connection to Faisal, because he's the only other person who comes back.
But they're the two leads. Like, we're with the two of them most of the time.
Yes, we're with the two of them in a series of tiny, well-lit rooms while they talk to President Wilson and the PM of the United Kingdom and the PM of France and their representatives and their translators. And it's like, this is the movie.
Is there like a narrative evolving throughout this, or is it literally just like you were almost watching a documentary style informational video?
There is a narrative, and it's borderline impossible for me to recount because it's so specific, but it very much is a story with a beginning, middle, and end about how close Lawrence felt like he came to actually getting independence for the Arab nations before it kind of fell back to what it was always set to be, which was like being split up into European control. So there's a lot of interesting like arguments and conversations that draw heavily from that first movie. Like, if you haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia and you try to watch this, it's like gibberish.
Did you have to rewatch the first one recently, or you just remembered all this?
I rewatched the first film a couple years ago, so I was like, this is fine. Like, it's not. If it had been any longer, I would have rewatched it. You don't need to know everything, but like, more so, you would have no reason to care about Lawrence and Faisal's thing if you had not actually kind of been there, so to speak, for all of their struggles in the original story. It's such a rousing kind of romantic adventure in the desert, and you can tell that that's in the back of the minds of these two characters who would rather be anywhere else but politicking at Versailles or whatever. And to not have that in this movie, it like hinges completely on the foreknowledge of the original story.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, because it's been a while since I've seen the first one, so I think if I tried to watch this without doing my homework of seeing the first one again, I would have been pretty lost.
Extremely. Yeah. I mean, it makes itself clear in terms of what the arguments are, because essentially, the reason that T.E. Lawrence thinks that they have an angle here, because again, much like by the end of the original story, he's just firmly trying to achieve independence for these people who helped him liberate Damascus. He doesn't care about British influence, but he has to pretend that he does. But his claim is that even though Britain and France signed a formal agreement about how they were going to divvy up that land, there was a different written agreement that predates all of that, promising the prince that the land would remain theirs, essentially. So there's like various legal documents, and there's disputes about which one overrides the others because it came first. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not particularly thrilling film narrative to keep up with, but it is nonetheless very interesting.
It's all in the performances because,
yeah,
like, there's so much subtlety in what's happening, and there's so much like specificity. I mean, really, they drill down at a certain point into how at the beginning, and I like this detail a lot. So they get there, Lawrence and Faisal show up, like they're dressed like European royalty, essentially, or not royalty, but like they're dressed in European style. They're not wearing like their traditional robes, which that is what Lawrence as a cultural figure is known for, is it's this white man in the desert wearing a white robe that and just embracing a culture that was completely foreign to the rest of like Europe and America at the time. But when they show up for these negotiations, they're like, we'll dress like you guys. Like, we'll try to play the game your way. And when they see that they're being like outright dismissed, Lawrence becomes aware that he's already famous, like the world over, for what he has done. And so he puts the robe back on. He's like, oh, I'm going to grab everybody's attention. Like, people want to talk to me. They want to interview me. They're making movies about me and shows. So we're going to use this public support to like sway the negotiations. Like, those are the types of plot beats we're getting in the story.
Which I like. I weirdly think I would enjoy this movie in a, like I said before, like kind of a cozy way. If, it was like a rainy afternoon and this would be like a nice kind of movie to just put on and maybe kind of half fall asleep to. But I mean that as a compliment.
No, I totally agree. I like the movie. Like, it's not boring. It's dense and hard to follow, and I had a headache when I was done, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Because again, like, that's this type of specificity that it gets into. Because ultimately, too, Lawrence tries to parlay this public support into having added influence over these negotiations, but then it strains his relationship with Prince Faisal because Faisal himself is used to being treated like a literal king and like worshipped back in his home country. But then all these people are like relishing this white man, and he's like gets frustrated about that. He has dialogue where he's like, he references the phrase like the uncrowned king of Arabia. I guess that applies to both of us. Because at some level, he's not sure if he's being taken advantage of, and if this is all ultimately sort of a vanity thing for Lawrence himself.
Yeah. See, that's good stuff. I mean, it's almost reminding me of Star Trek, where it's just interesting kind of political intrigue, which a lot of, especially Deep Space Nine, centers around that type of storytelling, but with good performances, and I assume strong writing here as well.
The writing and the performances are good, and even in its narrow scope, like, it doesn't look bad. It looks small scale, but they'll do their best with the environments that they were shooting in. There's like one shot I remember that was cute where like Lawrence is sitting. There's these little conversation pods. It's just people sitting in chairs in this lobby having these important conversations. And one of the groups of 4 chairs is like Lawrence and Faisal and these 2 people, but then there's people with their backs to them that are listening to their conversation, and the camera kind of like spins around multiple times to like slowly change the POV of that scene into like who's talking and who's listening. So it's not like they make a lot of effort to punch up what is very, very dry material.
I like that too. I like the idea of using the camera to tell the story in a scene that's mostly dialogue.
Yes.
Because that helps a lot, especially if audiences are, like you said, if you have a headache at the end and it's difficult to keep up with, moving the camera in that way, in a way that helps tell the story, makes it more clear to the audience what's happening, even if they're not picking up on every little minutia of detail that's going on in the conversation.
Like, the movie technically tells you everything you need to know, but again, you have no reason to care about your POV character unless you saw the other one. But they do give you everything in the context of the story as to why these things matter. It's mostly just that I think if you haven't seen the first film, you would not be very sympathetic to Lawrence himself, because the character in both is kind of like vain, or like not vain, but he like kind of likes all the attention that he gets from all of these things he accomplishes, and he has this kind of, he has like angry eyes. You know what I mean? Like there's a quality to him.
Angry eyes.
Well, there's a whole thing in that first film about the like, by the end of it, he just like murders a bunch of people. Like he really gets caught up in like the violence of the war. And there's a quality in this version too, where like he's not an expressly likable guy all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that was, given that it's such a direct continuation, this is an instance where the sequel is able to actually build on the experiences of the character from the first film and send them in a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what makes this interesting is it's like, is it a good movie if it's purely an attachment to a different movie? Like it is a sequel, kind of, but it's more so like a 1.5. It's like Lion King 1.5. Like we're just showing you like the next thing that happened, but like without the original, you don't have a movie here.
Yeah, yeah. You just got Timon and Pumbaa running around.
You just got Timon and Pumbaa doing Hamlet or whatever.
I think it was Rosencrantz and Guildenstern actually is what they were doing in that one, but
yeah, but they're characters from Hamlet.
What? No.
Listen, when I first read Rosencrantz and Pumbaa in school, I was like, I like this one.
I can't wait till Dr. Bashir shows up.
Well, yeah, you were right, Frank, that it's like a Star Trek episode without the little things that peak Star Trek would do to like make it more light and fun. Like there's not really any comedy, there's not any wacky science fiction element underneath it. Obviously, Lawrence doesn't like hold up the peace conference with a laser gun.
Should have.
He should have. Yeah. That is another scene that I liked in terms of like the specific nuance is at a certain point, the other delegates, because there's other translators around, become aware that while Lawrence is supposed to be translating for Prince Faisal, Bashir, Faisal's literally not saying anything. He's speaking passages from the Quran and basically giving Lawrence freedom to just freely negotiate himself, because they emphasize heavily that if left alone, the prince, who does speak English and is hiding it, would just mess up the entire thing. Like, they clarify that he does not have the political acumen to get what he wants, and so he literally just spouts nonsense, and not nonsense, but he spouts unrelated dialogue and just lets Lawrence speak freely anyway.
Oh, and so that kind of ties into his uncrowned king line about who's really leading things here.
Who's leading who? Because that also comes up later, where Lawrence, in trying to like sway this other character, starts to speak very possessively of the whole thing, where he's just like, you know, I'm going to get my Arabs like what we want, and like I can make Faisal do whatever I want, and Faisal overhears this. And you're not sure if he was saying that for the sake of politicking or if he really thinks that like he is in charge of this whole operation. And their way their arc ends is that even though they ultimately fail in that moment at the peace conference and kind of separate on somewhat bad terms, they see each other again later, and Faisal admits, he's like, I wasn't sure, but I know now, like, you really did everything you could for us. Like, you weren't taking advantage of my people. You fought for our same cause all along.
And is that the kind of end of the movie?
Yes, much like the first one. Bad ending.
It just...
Because we...
Just sort of ends.
Just sort of ends, exactly. Like, we are shown how things ultimately fall apart at the peace conference, and then the biggest thing that Lawrence does, and I don't know the historical accuracy of this, but in the way it's presented in the movie, he discovers that the main reason the Brits and the French want to keep things as they are is that around this same time, the British have discovered that the Persian Gulf, which they are set to inherit, is full of oil. And so they're like, he's like, oh, okay. That's why they're so adamant about all this. They want to just give away Syria, take the Persian Gulf, start mining all of the oil. And so Lawrence in the movie sends a secret correspondence about this plan to like a newspaper and like blows up the whole plan. And it leads to Syria like actively resisting French occupation for like another year afterwards until they ultimately fail. And because of his actions, they demote him, Lawrence, to like the lowest ranks of the British military and just kind of like send him away. They like remove him from the public sphere and they make it clear. They're like, we kind of want to like arrest you, but we can't because you're famous, but you just need to go back to your studies and like, we don't ever want to hear from you again because they think he like betrayed the crown.
See, this is a case where the real person led a very interesting life, but that's not as easy to adapt into a feature film format always.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to wrapping things up and having a nice clean ending, because that's not how real life works.
Oh my gosh, they throw up some text at the end of the movie that puts a very sad button on the whole thing.
I was going to say, doesn't the first movie have something about him dying?
Yeah.
Like the end of his life?
The first scene in the original film is him dying in a motorcycle crash. And they do tease there's a scene in this sequel where he's like super fed up and just wants to be free. And so he grabs some motorcycle and starts like driving recklessly down a road. Foreshadowing.
Oh, is that? Okay, but that's not literally this where he dies, though, right?
No. This is during the other thing. But just to jump ahead. So the movie ends. It's a year later. The negotiation fell through. He sees Faisal one last time and they sort of like reconnect. And the last thing he says to him, Lawrence, is he's like, it's not over. Like, the fight's not over. And then it flashes up this text on screen that I'm just going to read verbatim. So it says, quote, in 1920, the French drove Faisal out of Syria. A year later, Churchill and Lawrence made Faisal king of a new Arab state, Iraq. Plagued by illness, he died in Switzerland in 1933. He was 48.
Wow.
So that's the end for Faisal. And then we get another title card about what happened to Lawrence. Quote, from 1922, Lawrence spent his remaining years in the lowest ranks of the Air Force and the Army. He died in May 1935 after a motorcycle accident. He was 46.
Oh, jeez. So they both died very young.
They both died young and without what they wanted, despite having a huge influence on the end of World War I and like the entire modern history of the Middle East, pretty much, because of what would happen later as a result of all of this colonialism.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot right now.
I know. I'm like, I'm terrible at history.
Yeah.
I was reading this and I was like, they were fighting the Ottoman Empire in that first movie. Like, I just was putting labels on things and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
Anti-mutagen.
Anti-mutagens.
It's a Secret of the Ooze reference. Go check out our Secret of the Ooze episode.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an interesting movie, but it's also like not a movie. It's like an addendum. It's an appendix to the first film that's 90 minutes long.
Yes, but I think, as we both said, not bad. Something we would both watch.
I liked it a lot. I would never recommend it to anybody else, but maybe yourself.
Okay, got you. Yeah. Somebody who wants to watch something boring.
If you want to watch something boring but kind of neat, watch this. Also, last Deep Space Nine connection. So we have Bashir from the show, and then there's this other really important character who's named Curzon.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Which is a character reference to Ton in Deep Space Nine. Obviously not the same man, but I was just like, that's weird. Oh, double extra trivia. There's a
trivia.
Hit the button. Double extra trivia time. There's another character who's only in a couple of scenes, and I was like, this guy looks familiar. Who's this guy? It's an actor named Paul Freeman, who we both know, Frank, as Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie.
Really? Wasn't he also... What was he in? He was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, wasn't he?
Yes, he was also the villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But obviously, Ivan Ooze. I mean, that's his big
Ivan
role.
Ooze. Yeah, throw it in their faces.
Throw it in their faces. Yeah. Anti-mutation. I love the idea of bookending a conversation about this movie with Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles.
We just always find a way to loop it back in somehow.
We always do. So yeah, I don't even know what else I could get into. Like, it's a very dense movie. Recapping it is complicated, but I liked it quite a lot.
Okay, well, that's good to know. This was a good. I feel like we're usually pretty good about season openers. We usually get
Yes.
the good ones out of the way.
Yeah,
and then
and then
it's
the trash
all
can come
bad
in.
from here on out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last point I have before we move on from this one to scoring is you were asking, like, is it still a movie? You know, like, is it still a story or is it just a recap? There is a narrative in this film about Lawrence himself that I thought was very interesting about his own sense that he thinks he's like illegitimate, that everything he's accomplished is kind of a farce and like a lie throughout his entire life. Because what they get into in the story is that apparently his parents had him outside of marriage. So they refer to him as literally like an illegitimate child from his birth. The surname Lawrence was like made up, like it wasn't his dad's name. He just assumed that name. So in his eyes, he has like a fake identity and no true name. There are multiple allusions, which I confirmed from looking up the real man later, that he is a gay man, which he cannot be open about. And there's even plot points related to how he could have maybe advanced his negotiations a lot farther because the wife of some important French dignitary wanted to sleep with him and he had to turn her down. And he like has this whole scene where he kind of just like laughs in her face at how absurd the whole situation is because he's literally like, I can't do that. I just can't.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of layers to that. And on top of everything else, the key to their entire claim, him and Faisal, about why their agreement to rule over Syria should be upheld is that regardless of any treaties, they committed a coup against the Turk, like the Ottoman Empire, because they made it there. Like that's the story in the first film. They beat the British army to Damascus and liberated themselves. And so in their eyes, they're like, we were there first. We stole this land. It's ours. But then in the story, some like Australian military officer comes forward and contests their claim by being like, actually, no, there was a small unit of Australian-led Arab forces that made it to Damascus before you did, and you knew that. And Lawrence doesn't dispute it, and that's like ultimately where his whole negotiation falls apart, is that even like the popular claim that the whole world has learned about him liberating the city is not entirely true.
Oh, well, this is something that happens quite often with historical figures where their deeds are exaggerated or misinterpreted. This was all within the context of the film, though, right? Or is this all stuff you kind of found out afterwards?
No, all of this happens in the movie. The allusions to him maybe being gay are like made clear in the film, but in reading about it afterwards, because both films draw from a novel that T.E. Lawrence wrote, which he's writing over the course of this movie, called like The Seven Pillars of Wisdom. And most people, after reading that text, broadly assume that he is gay because he never married and he was never had no relationships with women, and it seemingly was, but obviously couldn't really live openly as that. So it's just another layer in his mind as the character in the movie of like just another lie, just another thing that I'm hiding. Like all of my achievements are fake, which maybe is supposed to underscore how important it is to him to like win at this peace conference. You know, like,
right?
Like we have to achieve something because then we did something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of sad and poignant for his character.
It is.
So that's kind of the arc for Lawrence in this movie.
Yeah. I would say maybe as far as downsides, Faisal doesn't have as much of one. He's kind of a side character more so than like an equal lead. It really is a one-man show for a lot of it.
Sure. I mean, that's how the movie's marketed, though, you know?
Yeah.
It's not Lawrence and Faisal after Arabia.
It's Lawrence and Faisal and Timon and Pumbaa, and they're doing a Hamlet.
And yeah, they're doing a Hamlet, I think.
I think. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, not positive, but I'm pretty sure.
Could have been a Macbeth.
Could have been one of the Spielberg movies.
Okay, Frank, that's our first episode of our Forgotten Movie sequel season. I think this one, like you said, it went pretty well. Couple of winners, back to back.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous at the beginning there when you started talking about this TV movie sequel to Lawrence of Arabia, but it sounds like you liked it.
I did. I specifically liked it. I don't know if our audience would like it. I would sooner tell them just go watch the first one.
Sure, which is a great movie all around. Can't go wrong there.
It's basically 2 movies.
Right, sure. What do you mean, the first one? Because it's so
Yeah.
long.
It's super long
Yeah.
and has a lengthy intermission, so you could kind of just watch it as part 1 and part 2.
Does that movie? It has a real intermission, right? Like an actual break in the middle.
Yeah, it has an overture that's a several minutes long at the beginning, and then an intermission score that I love, actually. I think the last time I watched it, I just watched that part straight through, because I was like, I like it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Long movies like that need intermissions. They're
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Really appreciate that part of it. And it's before like a time jump, too, so it's very well integrated.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. But the second one, though, what do you think about that one?
Well, I mean, you had the first review today, so why don't we wrap up on Return to Oz real quick, and then after that I can wrap up on this one.
Okay. Return to Oz, I didn't know what I was going to score this one. I try and, like I said, to keep things honest, I try and have a score in mind, and then usually after the conversation, reflect on that and see how I feel about it.
Mhm.
Return to Oz, I'm still not really sure where to put it because it wasn't like a great movie, but there was just a lot that I really liked about it. So I think I'm going to score it high.
Yeah.
Just because it was a unique experience. So I'm going to give Return to Oz an 8. 8 out of 10
8 out of 10.
for Return to Oz.
That's pretty good. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. That one to me was just a name I had in mind when we came up with this premise. And so, like, scoring-wise, I was like, this could be a 0, it could be a 10, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, just for the uniqueness of it, the strangeness, the just odd experience that was watching Return to Oz. It left an impression. I think we've said this before. We usually will score higher if it leaves more of an impression, and I think this one did.
Okay, 8 out of 10 Return to Oz. Makes sense based on everything you said. I think between the two, if folks at home had to go watch one after this episode, probably Return to Oz. That seems like there's a little more to chew on there.
Yeah, especially if you're a freaky little weirdo that likes weird stuff.
If you're one of them Tim Burtons or George Lucas's, just
Yes.
this is your stop.
Get off here, buddy.
Get off and don't come back. Okay, 8 out of 10. Similar boat in terms of scoring Lawrence After Arabia. I wrote down a score when we started, or when I finished the movie, and then I've been trying to judge in conversation with you if it seems like I should rank it higher or lower, but I'm going to stick with what I wrote down, and it's going to cause a logistical problem because I'm giving Lawrence After Arabia an 8 out of 10.
Oh, no.
Folks, break the glass, break the George. We have a tie.
Yeah, this hasn't actually happened before, right?
No, we've done other episodes. This is probably like our 19th regular episode of this program, and we've never had a tie.
I'm surprised you scored it so highly. It sounded like you liked it, but this is. I wonder if your appreciation of the original film is carrying over a bit into this one and kind of boosting it.
Kind of has to. Like I said, I'll admit that if you haven't seen the first film, or if you didn't like it, 0 appeal to this second one. But as someone who did like the first one, and looking at why this movie was made, which was just to be like a little bit of extra follow-up, I think it still has a narrative arc. It is very slow and dense, but for what it was trying to be, I think it kind of nailed it. Like, this could have easily been awful if the writing was worse, if the performances were worse, if just the editing was bad. But what we get is a story that has some element of underlying tension. We get a good arc, especially I feel like we get a good arc for T.E. Lawrence, who probably had more complexity even than that first film had room to show. And I think this kind of gives you an interesting other side, which to me is a great use of a film sequel, is to explore the same character and add extra detail that kind of informs even that first watch, but in a good way, you know?
Yeah, I think these are 2 great examples of how to do sequels, but in very different ways.
Yes.
Like Return to Oz went in a completely different direction.
Completely different tone. I would say this one, Lawrence After Arabia, kept the tone in a way, but completely changes the setting. Like, it changes the structure to be a totally different kind of movie at a genre level.
Yeah. Yeah. went from like an action adventure game to a turn-based game.
It went to like Settlers of Catan, and it's just like, but you're not allowed to flip the board. You just actually have to finish World War I, and everyone's like,
That's my least favorite of the World Wars.
There's literally a bit towards the end where like Winston Churchill's like, anyway, we gotta go be mean to Germany, so we'll be back later. Like, because that was the whole thing at the end of World War I, is that Germany suffered like such massive sanctions for their role in the war that it like ultimately spiraled into the beginning of World War II, because the German economy got so messed up by that it allowed like fascism to take power, to say they were going to like take back their country. And it was just funny to kind of tease that in there. It was like, Germany will return in World War II.
Unfortunately, Germany will return.
We'll all be back for another one.
Boo.
Boo. So yeah, Frank, I don't think we have an official... I guess we don't have to do anything. The episode's just a tie.
Well, let's just do rock, paper, scissors, okay?
Paper, scissors. Okay, I can't see you, but I'm sure we'll be very honest.
Yeah,
all right?
Totally.
All right, so we'll do rock, paper, scissors, shoot, right?
Okay, yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Rock, paper, scissors, Ottoman Empire.
Scissors. Not sure what to do with that one.
I knew that was going to be your joke, but your delivery made me laugh anyway. Scissors. Okay, I'll say, if you have to kind of, score-wise, we'll keep it 8v8, because this will all go into our Season 3 leaderboard, where we keep track of the cumulative scores across all the movies we talk about. But for tonight's episode, Frank, I think we both already said that yours is the one, Return to Oz is the one that we would tell the audience to go watch.
Okay, so I'll go first for picking next week's.
That's what I was gonna.
Movie.
Well, I know I picked Return to Oz. You watched Return to Oz.
Yeah, shut up. You're going first.
You know what? No, listen. We can do whatever we want. It's our show. Frank, you go first. Let me know what you would like to watch. Jesus, what would you like me to watch for the next episode?
Scissors. Okay. Yeah. All right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's a tie.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
Sorry, folks.
I'm not. So your movie for next week is 2008's The Scorpion King 2: Rise of a Warrior.
No! Scorpion King 2? Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Let me write it down.
The Scorpion King 2, starring, this is going to like this part, the lead is played by Michael Copon, who you and I know as Lucas, the Blue Time Force Power Ranger.
Power Rangers again. Keep finding our way back.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay, so for folks who maybe don't know, The Scorpion King is itself a spin-off from The Mummy Returns.
Yep.
Because that's The Rock's character in The Mummy Returns, that horrible CG monster. And then The Scorpion King got a movie starring The Rock, where he was the lead. And now this is the sequel to that. Boy, it really shrunk, that Scorpion King, in between movies.
Oh, yeah. Big time. And you know what?
Not as muscular.
And there's 4 Scorpion King movies. There's 3 sequels to the original one.
Oh, God. Can you imagine if I was just like Scorpion King 3? That was your pick for next time.
You could.
No, okay, so I'll watch Scorpion King 2, and I'll love it because it has a Time Force actor in it, and that's just funny.
Yeah.
And then, Frank, yours for next time, since now I know it doesn't have to be good.
Yep. The bar is low.
Bar is low for episode 2, but it'll be really fun to talk about. Frank, your film for next time, I'm going to ask that you watch a little troll pick pretty early on in the season. Frank, I would like you to watch 1993's Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Oh, no. I haven't even seen the first one.
I know. I haven't seen the first one.
I'm going to be so lost.
Yeah, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Weekend at Bernie's is a slapstick comedy where these two guys their boss dies and they puppeteer his corpse in order to live a rich lifestyle or something.
I see. I didn't even know. I just knew. It was a guy who died. I didn't even know it was their boss or anything like that. I had no
like
details.
The whole movie is a stupid 90s sight gag where like he's a dead body and they like put sunglasses on him and like tie a string to his hand so he can wave. And I'm like, how do you do that again?
How do you do it the first time?
How do you do
How
it
do
the
you
first
do it
time?
again?
Are we allowed to go watch the firsts of a thing in
Sure,
advance
you
of the
could
second one?
Can do whatever you want. I'm not going to. I'm just going to watch the second one. But
Yep.
So
Weekend at Bernie's 2. To me, the reason being, this is peak, like, why on earth would you make a sequel territory? Like, these ones today both kind of made sense. I cannot fathom a reason for Weekend at Bernie's 2 to exist, but maybe it's, like, really good, you know?
that's just one of those movie titles that people recognize, and they were just banking probably on the fact that people would go see it. They'd be like, I've heard of that. There's a sequel.
I'm so curious if it's the same dead guy.
That
Or if it's like a different dead guy.
Though.
Yeah, just like a just like a desiccated corpse. And they're just like, what? It's our boss. You're giving me a hard time.
Giving him a noogie or something. Like,
Yeah,
come
and then,
on,
like,
this guy.
Just looks like a mummy.
That's what I was thinking. It would be fun if it was like a mummy that was like cursed or something, and that's what they're trying to like puppeteer.
Oh, that'd
Like
be
a
good.
cursed, yeah.
You can't
mummy
really make
corpse.
mummy movies now because the actual cultural context behind mummification is just like a real thing that people did. But if we're talking 1990s when Mummy was just a funny Scooby-Doo idea, you could totally have done that.
Or like in the Scorpion King 2, where it's still a funny Scooby-Doo idea, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they do not take it seriously. All right. That is a bizarre matchup for next time. We came in with the highbrow stuff, and now we got nothing.
Yeah. Not nothing. I knew what I was doing when I picked Scorpion King 2.
Yeah.
I asked for this.
This is a silly one, but like I have other ones for this season that are like sequels to good movies, and I'm just trying to like alternate, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I got a better one lined up after this one, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Stay tuned for next episode in 2 weeks. We'll do a goofy matchup between Scorpion King 2 and Weekend at Bernie's 2.
What if they're both amazing? What if they're both like really good, like 11 out of 10 movies?
What if Bernie shows up in Scorpion King?
Whoa! Like while Michael Copan is like just delivering like Shakespeare-esque lines about Time Force
In a Power Ranger outfit? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, it's mummy time. And they're like, no,
No,
told you.
no. You're
It's
so
not mummy time.
dumb.
So dumb.
Just berating him.
That's such a funny concept to me. All the other characters are just like, shut up, Scorpion King.
Gosh. Are you even the Scorpion King? Are you even him?
Are you? I don't think so. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please give us a like, give us a follow on whatever platform that you're using. We're available on all of them. Follow us on social media. You can find the links in the description, but we're on Instagram at Meet Your Double Feature and on Blue Sky at MYDFPod. You can also find us at that same handle on Letterboxd if you want to follow along with everything we've talked about. And I think that'll do it. Frank, also check out the movie Frank made. That's in the description as well. Nate and Moriah in Venice, available now on Tubi.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it.
Pretty good. So when you make the sequel to that movie, which I'm sure you're working on, so it'll be like Nate and Moriah at Bernie's, right?
Two. The Scorpion King.
The Scorpion
parentheses.
King.
Special thanks, George Lucas.
Coming up next, it's The Scorpion King 2, Rise of a Warrior, followed by Weekend at Bernie's 2 on Meet Your Double Feature. Those both sound great.